Street Fighter 6. It's a game. It came out recently. I've been playing it and having a lot of fun. Have I played many fighting games before? No. Have I played Street Fighter? Not really. But I've been having a lot of fun with the game. What I wanted to do to kind of celebrate my newfound interest in this franchise was to take something about this game and apply some other aspects of my life to it for some YouTube content, because hashtag content. It should be pretty obvious for those who know me that I'm really big into stage combat and fight choreography and that whole world. It's one of my many bags I'm super into, and it's a career path I care a lot about. That being said, how do I apply that to Street Fighter as a video game? Well, this is what I came up with. I'm basically just going to go through the roster and kind of rank each one of their basic fighting poses, their main stance, and to see how effective they are in real life, as well as how good they are conveying their character, because in stage combat, both of those things are important. You want to make people look like they can fight, but you also want to make sure we can see who they are by how they fight. I figured that'd be a really cool way to put this into Street Fighter and apply that to other things I do in my life. So let's do the thing! Starting with the top of the roster, we've got Luke. Now, Luke's fighting style, very bare bones, very generic, not particularly interesting or exciting in terms of dynamic, weird stuff, but it's very effective, very efficient, and his fighting stance really conveys that. It's a relatively bare bones, main, normal fighting stance you'd expect basically anyone to take. The only real difference between that and a normal real-life fighting stance you'd see in a more serious fight is how relaxed his arms are. Very much looks like somebody who doesn't take himself or fights too seriously, but still really cares and is interested. I think that conveys his character really well, so I'd give it a very good job. Congratulations, Luke. You go in A. Next up is our drunken boxing b-boy Jamie. He's got a very effective fighting stance as well. It's very relaxed, which is very fitting with drunken boxing. He's also got the little finger cup holding thing like you would expect with drunken boxing. His hands are more up and towards his opponent than Luke, so like I actually think it's a more effective fighting stance than Luke's. And also, you know, he's keeping himself bobbing back and forth. It's both very musical, which fits his character, but also keeps him, you know, on his toes and very active. And it conveys his character pretty well. His idle pose as well, where he does this little top rockin' thing that he's probably about to do right about now. I timed that really well. Yeah. Good character design, good character conveyance, great fighting stance. I'm putting him in S. Next on the list is Manon, our ballet dancing, judo throwing supermodel. What a combination. Her hands look very open and ready. Her hands are not made into fists, which makes her more easily accessible with grappling. Makes a whole lot of sense considering her fighting style. Her weight's very much on her back foot with her front heel a little bit raised, showing just how ready she is to kind of snap up and kick if she needs to. A pretty effective fighting style. Personally, I think I would have preferred a judo stance to be a little bit lower to the ground. This is looking a little bit more like Aikido to me. I don't know a whole lot about the intricacies of the differences between the two, but that's the vibes I get. Either way, very effective. I'm gonna give it, you know what? I'm also going to give it an A. You've got the elegance, you've got the poise, you've got the posture, you've got the defensive fighting style, you've got the hands open. It just works. Moving on over to Kimberly. This is somebody who fights very much like a ninja, and her stance doesn't really have any roots in ninjutsu, but it is a reference to an older character, Guy, who she studied under. I did some research on this to make sure that it was effective, and like, yeah, she's basically doing her version of Guy's stance. The main difference being the added swaying back and forth, listening to music, and a little bit more of a relaxed style. She's taking it way less seriously than somebody else might, and she's incorporating her music, which very much fits her playstyle. Super big fan. Conveys your character really well, and it's a pretty effective fighting stance as well, because like, you're keeping yourself side profile towards your opponent, making you a smaller target. Very effective in sword fighting as well, although it isn't Soul Calibur. But yeah, like, effectively conveys character, and I would say is not a particularly great fighting stance in terms of like how relaxed it is, but like not too much worse than someone like Luke. So I'm gonna give it a B, but like a high B. Following that up is Marisa. I love this character. Even before going into any of her pose or her stance, you can totally see her whole vibe just from her character design. Very Greco-Roman inspired. The frickin' hair looks like a Spartan helmet. It's genius. Little subtle touches like the fact that she is a jewelry designer and cares a lot about beauty. She's got painted nails and painted toenails. She's also got the necklace around her neck. Makes a lot of sense. In terms of her fighting stance, it's pancration or pancration, as I believe she says in the game. even without looking into the specifics of that fighting style and its history and in terms of like fighting stances, this is a very effective stance. It really much uses her height, keeping her arms above, so she can very much attack from above, but also her weight's very much on her back leg, so she can raise her knee and defend herself if need be. Fists up, ready to go, ready to guard her face if anyone comes at her, but like she looks like she can and will plaster you against the wall, which she does regularly. Very, very good. Now, I did mention that her visual design very much conveys her character well. In terms of her fighting pose, let's see how it compares to like traditional pancration stances. As you can tell from this old photo of an even older statue, the arm placement makes a heck of a lot of sense for this art form. So with the added historical context of how accurate this fighting stance is, it's going to score really high in that regard, but it doesn't necessarily convey her character as much as I say some other stances already high up on this list could, so I'm going to put it into B tier. Moving on from there over to Lily, one of the two characters who fights with weapons in this game. Main thing to note, if you're fighting with weapons, you're going to want to keep the weapons between you and the person you're fighting, so that one with her backhand all the way back here is very impractical and not very effective at all. Having the other one in front does help in that regard, absolutely, but still, could be better. That being said, it makes a lot of sense for silhouette design and pose design from a video game artistic standpoint, so I'll give it a bit of a pass. In terms of the effectiveness of Lily's fighting stance, it's not the best, I'll be honest. The truth of that matter is, though, that it does a really good job of conveying her character. It looks like someone who is a little bit more inexperienced, making a little bit more of a mistake, leaving herself this far open with a weapon all the way behind her. That's not something you would want to do, but it does convey her character as somebody who is still learning. So it does a really good job of conveying character, not a good job of being a good fighting stance. So you know what? I'm gonna have to give it a C. Good for character, bad for fighting. Next is JP, and this is an absolutely horrendous fighting stance. This guy is not about to fight somebody. He's got an arm behind his back. His weight is all the way on the back leg. The only thing that looks like he's possibly ready to defend himself is how far out he's holding his cane, which isn't even that far. And yeah, in terms of character conveyance, he looks like a pompous asshole, which he is. So that works. But like, how does he fight? It looks like he doesn't. He looks like he's about to send somebody else after you. Now that I think about it, JP looks like the kind of guy who would go on the top level of like the overlooking the factory floor and tell everybody how important the work is they're doing and how it's worth all the time that they're wasting and the lack of money that they're getting, and thanking them for their service without actually giving them any additional pay. That's what this guy looks like. And I hate him. Now, in terms of how he fights, there is absolutely like no frame of reference in the real world because this guy uses weird magic stuff. So like, you can't really judge it in terms of how effective that fighting stance is unless you know how the magic works very intimately. And I don't. From what I can tell, it looks like he can snap his fingers and do magic stuff, so he doesn't really need a fighting stance. So you know what? Decent character conveyance. He looks like exactly who he is, and I hate him for it. As far as character conveyance goes, it does a fantastic job. In terms of going to a fight, it only makes sense if he has magic, which he does. But also, even if you have magic, you want to be able to do stuff with your body anyway. And I mean, look at him. He's got veiny, rippling muscles. He definitely has strength. He should be ready to use it, and he really doesn't look like it. This is the worst one so far. It's going all the way down to D. Let's hope we can do a little bit better with Juri, and we can, but unfortunately, not by much. The thing is, standing on one leg is a very, very bad idea, especially if you do it for an extended period of time in a fight. You're just asking to get knocked over, and, you know, it's not realistic for anyone to fight this way. It's very bad. To have weight on the back foot and like a foot down ready to come up, that's great, but if you keep your foot up, you're going to lose your balance. That's bad. In terms of her hand placement though, that's decent. I like that. In terms of her personality, it makes some sense that she would fight relatively recklessly, considering that she is a little bit wild as a character. So, in a similar way to Lily, this is a pretty decent character pose, not a great fighting pose. So because of that, I'm putting it in the same place as Lily, in C tier. Moving on to the next one, we've got DJ the DJ. His name is DJ, but it's not DJ, but he is a DJ, and his name's DJ, who's a DJ, but his name's not DJ. Got it? This guy's fighting pose looks like he is ready to have a good time, ready to have a fight. His arms are up, he's ready to guard. His stance is really wide and really open. He's also moving and grooving. Definitely keeping himself open and having a good time. Very friendly looking character for that reason. but his hands are up, ready to guard. His stance is relatively forward and ready to go. This is a really good fighting stance, and I mean, conveys his fun-loving dancing style very, very well. So because of that, DJ, you're going into DA. Do you get it? Because I almost said D and then went into A, and his name is DJ, so it's like DA. Do you get it? You guys get it? Okay. Moving on from DJ, we've got Cammy, who has maybe the best fighting stance in the game. In terms of like real life effectiveness. I mean, the side profile, the weight bouncing from one side to the other, the hand placement, one's right by your face, ready to fire out, the other one's ready to block or come out with smaller jabs. It's brilliant. Also, in terms of character conveyance, not terrible either. It really conveys that she will be always moving, high mobility character, very fast, but also very effective, a very ruthless and deadly fighting style based off of how on point she is with her stance, but also how much she keeps moving. Very effective. Because of that, I'm putting it next to Jamie in S tier. Here we go. It is time for Mr. Street Fighter himself, the Ryu. Here's the thing though. His fighting stance is excellent. It's phenomenal. It's a great fighting stance. Does it convey how he fights? Yes. The only problem I could think of with that is his character and how he fights is bland as hell. It is bare bones, red Power Ranger ass. This guy, he wears his concept on his sleeve, and his concept is not complicated. So, very effective fighting stance. Honestly, effective at portraying his character and how he fights. The only issue being, it's not that interesting. But, good job! Despite being a basic bitch, it makes a heck of a lot of sense, so you're going an S. Next up is the sumo man who does sumo things. It's E Honda. Everything about the way he stands ready to fight looks like he's about to get into a sumo wrestling match. Makes a heck of a lot of sense. The addition and slight change of where he has his arms placed leaves him a little bit open, but also still low to the ground close to his legs, so it looks like he's ready to kind of fire out and forward. And keeping his arms in fists very much looks like he's tense and ready to go. So despite the fact that he's not really guarding himself, he looks like he's setting himself up like a brick wall with his low stance and wide shoulders and arms. So like, not the most offensive and effective stance, much more of a come and hit me and see if you can do anything kind of stance. Very effective character-wise, not very practical. So you know what, Mr. Honda, you're gonna go into B. The only reason you're not going in C is because you look like you can take a punch. Next up, we've got the Animal Man from the jungle. We've got Mr. Blanka. Here's the thing about Blanka's stance. It does a really good job of conveying that he is an animalistic man from the jungle. He looks like a gorilla. He moves like a gorilla. He behaves like a gorilla. There's just one problem though. If you ever get into a fight with somebody, one of the things you want to do with your face is to keep it far away from where the punches are coming from. And Blanka here has done the opposite. So like, it's bad, but again, good character design. Frustrating. Blanka, you make me sad, because you're a very nice boy who deserves the world, but you keep standing like you're literally inviting fists to come visit your face for the winter. Stop it. You're going in C, at the bottom of C, and you're gonna stay there. Next on the docket, we've got Guile, Mr. Guile. His fighting stance very much makes a lot of sense. He looks and stands like a boxer. The only real complaint I have about his stance from a technical standpoint is how freaking high his shoulders are, but that may just be his freaking muscles. This guy takes the Captain America Dorito shape and just inflates it. It's wild. Very much looks like a guy who takes fighting very, very seriously. That animation looks like he's very much testing himself, checking his opponent. Makes a heck of a lot of sense. It makes sense that he's a military man as well. This straight to the point, I think no nonsense is probably the most accurate word I can think of to describe this guy. Really good job of conveying character. Really, really effective fighting stance. Up there on the top. Yeah. Good on ya, Guile. Going into S tier. Following up with that, we've got Ken. He's got all the benefits of Ryu's fighting stance in terms of effectiveness in an actual fight, with the added benefit of having a character to convey through that fighting stance. More energetic, more fun-loving, a little bit more relaxed, but still very much a very effective fighting stance, and he's got character to convey with it too, and he does. Freaking phenomenal. Ken Masters is a master. By that I mean S tier. To the top of S tier. Alright, Chun Li, we've got power, we've got grace, we've got thighs in your face. I'm sorry. A very effective fighting stance in terms of Totally front-facing, looks very defensive, ready to kind of be on the back foot, but also checking kicks with the front leg, snapping, weights very much on the back foot. Front foot is there for balance. Take notes. Juri, ready to snap forward and check if you need be. And the hands, very much like, hey, come and get me if you need to, but the back fist is ready to come forward if need be as well. And the front hand can also, deflect and block much closer to the source, kind of get in and do some rapid punches. And as far as Kung Fu stances go, it's pretty freaking excellent. As far as conveying character, Chun Li doesn't have a whole lot of character as far as I can tell. She doesn't look too playful that her freaking I did it pose would suggest, but also she has a lot of poise and grace in this game. So you know what? I think it works. It's just not as evocative of some of the other stances. So with that, Chun Li, you're gonna go into A. Closing it off with our final two, we've got Zangief, or Zangief, as I've heard his name pronounced in the game. Either way, this guy, he looks like he's about to grab ya. It makes a heck of a lot of sense. He is low to the ground despite his size, and his arms are open and ready to snatch forward and grab you. This guy looks like he is a bear, and from what I remember, he wrestles bears. It makes a lot of sense. In terms of character conveyance, this guy looks like somebody who just wants to grab you and throw you. And as far as I can tell from Zangief as a character, that's who he is. So like, similar to Ryu, not a whole lot of character convey, but does a decent job of conveying it. In terms of fighting effectiveness, yeah, pretty dang good. The only possible complaint I can have would be if you want to actually do more, punching and striking with your body, you may not want to have your fingers all spread out like that, but like, he doesn't, so it works really well. Good job. Flying pile driver right at it here. Yeah. And last, but unfortunately least, we have Dhalsim. What is this? What is this? What is that? No! Not only are you standing on one foot like you're not supposed to, you also aren't even using the foot that's up in preparation for a kick, it looks like. Then you have your arms. They could potentially be in some kind of like Kimberly where the hand placement is, but you keep them moving in a way that does not look like it is actually accomplishing anything. It's just kind of moving. And, some people might say, oh, it's designed to kind of like distract people or, like keep them off their toes. Do you really think somebody like freaking Zangief right there is gonna be deterred by some waving hands? He's going for her freaking head! The thing is, Dhalsim is stretchy. He's impossibly stretchy. What would make a lot of sense would be for him to have a fighting stance that makes him look like a coiled spring, ready to just whip out like some kind of elastic band. This is not that stance. This is the worst stance. I'd even say that calling this a fighting stance is a bit of a stretch. Well, there you have it. This is my tier list for how effective each character's fighting stance is, both in terms of fighting effectiveness and also character effectiveness. If you like it, let me know. If you disagree, let me know. I'm curious to see what people think who have way more knowledge about Street Fighter than I do, because I admit, I don't have much. I can't wait to see what other characters that are coming into this game and look at their fighting stances as well. If you want me to talk about them, I will. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't done this kind of YouTube content thing ever before. Hope you liked it. If not, I'm gonna be trying a whole bunch of other stuff, so, stick around if you like. Goodbye!